Hello students, and this is your Sir Shubhadev. We are back with the structure of matter. We have started this chapter, we did a few classes and I tried to explain a lot of the things from this, but I'm quite sure that many of you still have a little bit of doubt regarding this thing. So I decided to make this video for you guys. Now, if you face any kind of problem regarding any of the topics that we are going to discuss today or we have already discussed last time, please feel free to ask me in the comments or maybe in the WhatsApp group. Okay, now let's begin. This chapter is all about matter. It is basically the introduction for you guys into the world of chemistry. Now, in this chapter you will be learning everything about the matter, what it is made up of, how the things actually work, what are the basic properties of the materials that the matters are made up of, what is the property of matter, everything. Okay, now let's begin this chapter. First of all, let us understand what is matter. Now, we have studied this thing in earlier classes also, and I have been discussing this thing again and again. So what is this matter? Basically anything and everything that has some mass and occupies space would be termed as matter, right? So it will literally means the book that is in front of you, it also has a certain amount of mass, right? Certain amount of mass of its own, and it is occupying a certain amount of space on your table, right? And the chair maybe on which you are sitting on, or a glass of water, anything which has certain weight, certain mass, and it occupies a certain amount of space would be termed as matter. So we have the basic idea of what matter really means, right? Now we should understand, we should discuss about what is this matters, anything is actually made up of. So what is the matter? What are these matters made up of actually? If you continue to break down in any substance, the tiniest particle that you will come across would be atom. The tiniest bit of particle that you will come across would be an atom. Now let's take an example. Take an example of a human being. We guys have hairs, right? If we go on just zooming into the particles that our hairs are made up of, as much as we zoom in, we will see that these are actually constituted of tiny particles. They continue to divide it even further. Continue to divide this thing even further, and we will come across these tiny particles. You can see the follicles are made up of carbon, oxygen, and those kind of elements, the atoms. You can see the structures here, right? So this is the tiniest particle that we humans are made up of. You can see that this is a atom of a carbon element. So now you have an idea of how tiny these particles are, right? Now in our country we had the concept of this atom long ago. Actually we used to call this as Anu. That was the name given by Muni Kanad back in the days. Okay, now we had this concept. This was considered to be the tiniest indestructible particle by which the entire universe and everything in it was made up of. Now in later years, in the modern history, our scientists continue to research on these things, because the concept of this Anu and Parmanu on all of these things were lost in time actually. Now a scientist named John Dalton, you will be studying about him and his studies, his researches later on in class 9. Now he first time, he was the one to name these tiny particles as atoms. These atoms are so tiny. Right now you saw in this video that if you continue to just divide the structure of a single hair, after that you will get the cell of by which the hairs are made up of. After that, if you continue to divide it further, even further, then you will be observing a single structure of atom. The structure of atom is so small. These atoms are actually so tiny, you won't be able to even observe this thing under the most powerful electron microscope that we have at our disposal till now. The thing that you will be observing under the most powerful electron microscope would be a small tiny dot. That's it, nothing further. This is the most that we can observe. But atoms are actually not the only tiniest particles. When 2 or 3 atoms actually combine with each other chemically, they will form molecules. Okay, let me elaborate this thing a little bit more. Now, before we go into details about this atoms and molecules, let us understand a few little concepts about elements and compounds. Okay, now the first one, elements. What are these elements? What are these elements? What do you understand by this elements? These are the elements. You can observe here we have the list of all the known elements to human being. This is known as a periodic table. Now I am not able to zoom this thing properly here, so just bear with me. So I will teach you how to read this periodic table properly. You can see at number 1 we have hydrogen. If you slide on to the second section, at the end of this entire chart we have helium, right? This is number 2. This is the element number 2. After that we have lithium, then beryllium, then boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, continued sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, argon, and so on. Total number of elements that you can see at the end, 118. There are total 118 different types of element that are known to us till today. Okay, so this is the entire list of all the elements. These are the elements. Basically, what is the difference between this element and compound? Let me explain this thing properly. When one of this element react with some other element, that will form a compound. Now suppose that the hydrogen that you can see at number 1, this is the hydrogen. Now if this hydrogen somehow reacts with maybe say oxygen here, what will happen? It may form a certain types of compound. The most common would be the water, right? Now all of you are familiar with this thing, water, right? Let's take a few more examples. Suppose that this carbon, number 6, you can see on your screen, number 6, carbon. It is reacting with maybe oxygen. What will happen? It will form a different compound, right? So all the things that you can see on your screen here, these are the list of the elements here. These are all the elements, and if these elements, 1 or 2 of these elements or more of these elements actually react with each other, what will they do? They will form compounds. Clear? They will form compounds. Let me elaborate this thing. Let me elaborate this statement a little bit. What were the examples that I took? I said that when hydrogen, this was an element, right? When hydrogen reacts with oxygen, this is also an element. Both of these things are elements, right? These are elements. When they combine with each other chemically, they will form water, H2O. This is water. Understood? Now the another example that I took was when carbon atom, this is a representation of carbon atom, this is the symbol for carbon. I will go into the details about the symbols and all. Okay, now first of all let's understand this part. Now when a carbon reacts with oxygen, what will happen? It will form carbon dioxide, CO2, right? So this is a molecule of a compound. So in the previous part, in the previous example, I gave you the example of H2O, that is water. And now we got another one, CO2, that is carbon dioxide. Okay, now both of these things are known as compounds, and they are actually made up of what? Oxygen, hydrogen, and in this case oxygen and carbon, right? So here this oxygen and hydrogen are the elements by which this compound is made up of, and here this oxygen and this carbon are the elements by which this carbon dioxide compound is made up of. Understood? So when two or three different kind of elements combine with each other chemically, they will form compounds. So up to this part, I guess you guys are clear, right? So now we were talking about two things. One was the element and another one was compound. One was element and another one was compounds, right? So we got to understand the concept of element and compound here, right? Now the elements are of a single trait. You should understand this thing properly. It is the simplest type of matter, this element. They have, if you consider one single type of element, I gave you one entire list of elements, right, in the periodic table. If you consider a single type of these elements, their property will always remain same, no matter from where you get the sample of this one. Let us consider oxygen, maybe not oxygen, let us consider iron. This is the symbol for iron. This is the symbol for iron. This is how we represent iron. I will explain how the symbols actually work. This is the symbol for iron. Okay. Now, from anywhere in this entire universe, you gather the sample of iron, the properties of iron will remain same always. Understood? So if you take the example of any kind of an element, say hydrogen, this was the number one element in the periodic table, right? If you take the sample of hydrogen from our earth, from our atmosphere, maybe if you break down water molecule and gather some hydrogen sample from that one, and you take another sample, somehow you manage to take another sample of hydrogen from the sun, or maybe from any other planet, or maybe from another part of this galaxy, the property of that hydrogen element will be same. Okay, so you can say that the properties of the elements will remain same no matter from where you gather this element. Understood? And the tiniest particle by which these elements are made up of are atoms. We have studied the properties of this thing right now. Okay, the tiniest particle of these elements, the simplest form of matter, are atoms. So right now I was saying, when from wherever you take the sample of this hydrogen or iron or maybe oxygen or maybe helium or maybe sulfur or maybe any other type of element, their properties will remain same, right? So literally this translates to the type of atom that they are made up of will remain same, the properties of the atoms will remain same. Now you can understand the relationship between these two, right? Elements and atoms, right? So you can say elements are made up of atoms. Basically the tiniest portion, the tiniest particle of an element is a atom. And when two or three different types of atoms are made are combined with each other, that will form a molecule. And also that's a compound. Okay, let me elaborate that part again. Now when some of the atoms combine with each other, that will form a molecule. You can see that two atoms of oxygen are here combining to form one molecule of oxygen gas. Now I hope that you guys have heard of another formation of this oxygen, ozone. You guys have heard of this thing, ozone layer depletion in SST, in environmental science. You have studied that part, right? When three atoms of this oxygen combine with each other, that will form ozone. Now see how the properties are different. In case of compound, these are compounds, you have to understand that when some of the elements of same type or different types combine with each other, that will form different compounds, and the tiniest particle of the compounds are the molecules. I'm repeating that thing again. The tiniest particle of an element is an atom, whereas the tiniest particle of a compound would be considered to be a molecule. Now you can see here clearly, when the atoms of oxygen are combining, we can get oxygen gas or ozone, right? Now you know that oxygen gas is a very important thing for us. We have to breathe in oxygen, right? It helps us to survive, whereas ozone is not that much helpful for our livelihood. Actually, you cannot breathe ozone like that. The properties of both of these things are completely different, right? Let's take another example. In case of maybe hydrogen gas, this is the symbol for a hydrogen gas, H2. That is, two atoms of hydrogen are bonded with each other. We should write this like this, actually, H2. Okay. Now another oxygen gas that you just understood, two atoms of oxygen are bonding with each other. We have to write it like this. When hydrogen gas and oxygen gas are reacting with each other, that will form H2O, water. Now let me make this the screen a little bit clear. Now what can you see here is two types of. Now what you can see on your screen is a combination. Now hydrogen and oxygen are reacting with each other to form water, right? The thing is that the property of the hydrogen and oxygen does not continue in the water. The property of water is not the same as hydrogen and oxygen. So one property of the compounds would be the compounds formed do not have anything in common with the elements or the compounds which are involved in their formation. So I can say, let me elaborate this part again. Hydrogen is a very explosive gas, whereas oxygen on the other hand helps combustion. In fact, fire can't be burned in without the help of this oxygen. If there is no oxygen, flames won't be formed. So oxygen actually helps in combustion. Hydrogen is an explosive gas. It will explode when comes in contact with high temperature, right? But what do we use water for? We can use water to extinguish flames, right? And also both of these things are gaseous, they are gases, whereas water is a liquid, right? So you can say the properties of the compounds do not match with the constituent, the substances from which they are made up of. Understood? Because this is a formation of chemical reaction, right? In last class we studied about physical changes and chemical changes, right? So a chemical reaction is a representation of any kind of a chemical change. You need to understand that. I guess I could make myself clear up to this part. Now let's continue. Now we will study about the properties of compounds. There are some basic properties of compounds that we are going to study today. The first one, a compound can be broken down into its constituent elements by chemical method. Now, a compound, I said earlier in last class also, a compound is a result of a chemical change when two or more elements, or maybe in some cases compounds also, react with each other chemically, then new compounds would be formed, new molecules of some compounds would be formed, right? Now let's take an example of the water only. H2O, that was the formula for water, right? That was the symbol for water. Now I hope that many of you know the process of electrolysis. That is actually breaking down of water in presence of by the help of electricity. When you apply a little bit of electricity to this to a jar full of water, actually take a container full of water, put two electrodes in it. You will study this thing later, actually in this class only, in class 7 only. Put two electrodes in it and pass electricity to this thing. What will happen? As the electricity passes through the liquid, through the water, it will break the hydrogen and oxygen apart, and we will be getting H2 and O2. Just the reverse of the reaction that we saw in the last example, right? So we can say that the compounds can be broken down into its constituent elements by chemical methods. Okay. Now the second property. A compound always contains the same elements combined together chemically in a fixed ratio. What does that mean? Now, this you have to concentrate a little bit to understand. In case of carbon dioxide, CO2, that is carbon dioxide, right? Now, from wherever you take the sample of carbon dioxide, you will always find in one molecule of carbon dioxide you have two oxygen and only one carbon. It is always the same. Even if you take the carbon dioxide from the matchstick that you burn, or you gather the carbon dioxide from the air that you breathe out, or you gather the carbon dioxide from a furnace maybe, or you gather the carbon dioxide from some other sources, no matter where you get the carbon dioxide, it always will have two oxygen and one carbon atom. The ratio will always remain same. For all the elements, this is the truth. Let's take another example for this one. Let's take the example of water, H2O. If you observe this thing, I'm always writing H2O. That literally means that always there should be two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. We cannot have any exceptions of this law. The compounds always contains the same elements combined together chemically in a fixed ratio. You cannot get carbon in a water molecule. You cannot get something other than oxygen. You cannot get chlorine in a water molecule. You cannot get helium in a water molecule. The compounds should have the same elements. In this case, hydrogen should be there, oxygen should be there, and also in the same ratio. It should always be 2 hydrogens only, not 3, not 4, nothing. It should always be 2, and there should always be only 1 oxygen. Understood? I hope I could make myself clear. And the last point, last property of a compound, that is, the properties of a compound are different from those of its constituent elements. I somehow explained that part already. See, still I will explain this thing again. Just see. When hydrogen and oxygen was reacting with each other, it was forming water, right? So the example that I gave was this one, right? And I also said that hydrogen was a gas. Oxygen is also a gas. Just remember this thing. These are the reactants. These things are reacting with each other to form a new substance. This is the water, right? So these substances are combining with each other chemically to form a new substance, that is water. Understood? Now this hydrogen is a gas. Also this oxygen is a gas, right? I'm representing gas with a G here. Both of these things are gases, but when they combine with each other, the resultant water, H2O, this is not a gas, this is a liquid, right? This is a liquid. Also I said that hydrogen is a very explosive kind of a gas, right? When it comes in contact with high energy, what will happen? It will explode, right? Now oxygen, it actually helps combustion. If you burn some fire, if you just start a fire, maybe it is too cold, you want to burn some things to make a fire. You have seen during the winter season, some people actually make a bonfire in front of their houses, maybe in front of shops, in front of the of many places actually, right? So what they do, they utilize some fuel into that, right? Maybe wood or paper, something like this, and they rise the flame. How do they do that? They should be increasing the temperature of that substance, right? Somehow they increase the temperature of that substance. Maybe they induce some flame to it, right? Now that will literally increase the temperature of the wood or the paper, right? And there should always be oxygen in the atmosphere, right? So without this oxygen, fire cannot burn. Remember this. So we can say both hydrogen and oxygen's property are like this. Hydrogen is a gas, oxygen is also a gas. Hydrogen is an explosive gas, oxygen helps in combustion. And what water does? What water does? Now let's go back to that bonfire. If you take a balti full of water and pour it on top of this this bonfire, what will happen? That will extinguish the flame, right? So water is utilized to extinguish flames, and also it has other properties. I'm just giving you a few examples here to make you understand it properly. The property of water is completely different from that of the hydrogen and oxygen, right? So this concludes the third point. The properties of a compound are different from those of its constituent elements. I hope I could make myself clear in this video. Next topic that we will be learning is mixtures and how compounds and mixtures are different from each other. I will follow up with a few homeworks for you guys, and if any one of you face any kind of problem, you can ask me in the WhatsApp group or in the comment section.